To start off the call, this is something I always love to do. I love to hear one word from everybody with how they're feeling today in this moment. One word in the chat section. And then this way you guys can get used to the chat section. If you're on your phone or if you're on your computer, hopefully a lot of you are so familiar with Zoom by now. But what's one word that describes how you're feeling today in this moment? And it's all welcome. If you're feeling like you're having a shitty day, fucking say it. If you're having an amazing day, say it. It's all welcome here. I'll start off. Today has been a very transmutive day for me. I'm definitely in the fire. And I would say today felt like a release. Today felt like a huge release. So that's my word for this moment. And such an amazing time for that to be the energy for this live transmission, for this transmission tonight. So all of you attending tonight are here because you are called to go through some sort of initiation. And that is how I like to look at it, is when we are called to make a change, we're being called to go through an initiation. And today on my own mastermind call, my mentor had said, when we work with the element of fire and fire comes to us, fire is meant for us to change. Fire comes to us to gift us new life, right? And it also comes to us to be, and we get to be initiated by it. It says, hey, let me help you move to this next level of life. Let me help you alchemize what it is that you're experiencing. And that is why fire comes to us. And if you guys have ever worked with the goddess Kali, Kali loves to work with fire. She comes in and she loves to destroy things. And she uses fire to do it so that new can be born. So I'm very grateful that you all listened to this calling inside of you and showed up tonight, or you're showing up to the replay, whatever you're able to be available for, and this may be something that in a year from now you're watching. And that was my hope with this transmission tonight. When I first downloaded it, I was like, oh, awesome. I have a masterclass. And I got this idea, and being a businesswoman, you're always like, I'm gonna create this, charge for this, is gonna be great. And I woke up in the middle of the night 2 days after I launched this, and my guides came to me, and they like woke me up, and they were like, this was meant to be accessible. People need this. People need this wisdom now more than ever. Please make it accessible. That's why we gave you the vision. And I was like, oh. And so that is why I felt called to just give this wisdom to you guys, because it's truly from spirit. It's not from me. I've experienced the initiation by fire over and over and over in my life and in my career. And it's something that I work with quite frequently. I don't know how many of you are familiar with astrology. Does everybody know their moon, their sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign? If you do, put it in the comments. I'd love to see who we've got here. My sun is Virgo, so I'm a Virgo. My moon is Virgo, and my rising is Taurus. Now I'm a triple earth sign, double Virgo. However, the rest of my chart is half fire, half earth. I have one air and one water element in my chart. So I work with fire so well. I always have my whole life. And until I really understood my chart, I didn't know why. So fire has presented itself to me over and over and over. And to add to that, I also have Gene Key 47 as my life's work, which, if you know anything about the gene keys or human design, that's the gene key of transmutation, change. So literally my life's work is change, and half of my profile and how I'm designed is fire. So it makes sense why this is such a um, familiar element for me to work with, and why Spirit was like, hey, will you please bring this medicine? Will you please teach this? Will you please, can we use you as a channel? And I said, yes, yes, Spirit, you can. So thanks for being here with me tonight. I want to see what everyone is. I'm going to read some of these words back for those of you catching a replay, or if you want to watch this again so we kind of know where everybody's at. Words from tonight: inspired, curious, open, healing, on the verge of a portal, focused, feeling a little weird, something feels off. And that probably tomorrow will all feel different, you guys. That's how I have felt. I don't know if you guys have felt that way. Every time I turn a page, I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, why do I feel like a new human again? New mood. Okay, so we've got a Leo sun, a Cancer moon, a Capricorn rising. Leo, hey Karen, I know your birthday's coming up in a couple days. Happy birthday. Chastity is a Taurus sun, Pisces moon, Cancer rising, beautiful. Earth, water, and Cancer is air, I'm pretty sure. Could be water because it's the crabs. Correct me if I'm wrong, I've had a long day. And then we got an Aquarius, Sag, Scorpio, Virgo, Scorpio, Pisces. Awesome. Love seeing my Virgos. Sag, Gemini, Libra. Nice. Let's see. Hi, Sarah. We're just saying what our sun, moon, and rising are, if you want to jump in. Gemini, Aries, Virgo. Awesome. Sun, Capricorn, moon, Scorpio. So not tons and tons of fire. And there's more Sag on here, which is beautiful to see. Only one Leo. So it's fun to see that. If you know the rest of your chart, you can kind of see where your relationship is with fire. Is it in your charts? You know, do you play with it much? So before we start tonight, before we dive in, let's do a little, we got a Capricorn, a Pisces, and a Gemini. Awesome. I'm going to go over some housekeeping is what I like to call it. So tonight, you guys, I invite you all to play full out. If you guys have journals by you, please utilize them. I have some really beautiful contemplation questions, which will really get you thinking, which will really get your mind turning. And I ask that you go deep. You know, I really ask that you go deep. We're also going to be doing a little bit of a meditation exercise tonight. We may be doing 2. I'm going to just let my feminine energy lead. That's usually what does best for me. I've noticed over the years of teaching is it's very intuitive. I have a little bit of an outline of where I want to go, but it's very intuitive. So be kind on yourself with the meditations. Some of you may stay with my words and some of you may not, and that's okay. I trust that you're going to get out of it what you're supposed to get out of it. And whenever I do these things, I always ask that you release all expectations. You know, you all came here tonight with an idea of what you're going to experience. And sometimes when we hold on to that gets in the way of the actual breakthrough that is desiring to happen, or the actual aha moment that's desiring to happen. So my ask is that you just release your expectations for this entire journey with me tonight, or whenever it is that you choose to rewatch this, so that you can be an open vessel, right? Be an open vessel, release expectations. And as you release those expectations, also be okay if you take one thing away from tonight. You take a quote, you take a word that stands out. You know, sometimes if I release the expectations and then I ask myself, what's one insight that you can have in this experience? I always end up having the most epic experience. And so that's my formula to staying open for spirit to gift me what it is that I'm actually looking for. Because, you know, we as humans, we're really funny beings. We get in our own way so often. get in our own way so often. And when we think we know the question that we're asking or the problem we're trying to solve, so often we're trying to figure something out the wrong way, or we're doing it the only way that we know how. And sometimes when we surrender things and we're open to be surprised, we're open to the unknown, that's when spirit can do its deepest work for us, with us, through us. Okay. Also, if I may or may not open questions up at the end, I may or may not have people comment in the middle of this. I don't know. Be willing to play full out. Be willing to light up the chat section, and share vulnerable things if you feel called. I have a couple contemplation questions tonight that you guys are welcome to share in the chat, just like little nuggets and breakthroughs. I feel like when one person has a breakthrough, we all have breakthroughs. So I'll be sharing those and it'll create conversation. So that's my housekeeping. Let's go ahead and attune and sink in and ground into the energy of tonight. So I invite you all to close your eyes. If you're driving, please do not. If you're cooking dinner, please do not. If you're doing something where you cannot close your eyes and be present, I invite you to really focus on your breathing and start to slow it down and stay with my breath cues. But what we're going to do is we're going to slow down and we're going to come into the container of tonight, the frequency of tonight, of this transmission, so that we can receive it. So if you can, close your eyes and check in with your breath. Check in with your body. Coming present into this moment. We're going to take a quick scan of our body. And as we do, we're going to let each part of our body light up really quickly. And we're just going to move through our body and activate our whole entire body so that we can become aware of this amazing, beautiful vessel that we're alive in, that our soul is in. Starting with our toes, let your toes light up. Let your feet light up. Your ankles, your calves, your shin, your knees, your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your womb or hara space for men, your stomach, your low back, your upper back, your chest and ribs, left shoulder, left upper arm, left lower arm, left hand, left fingers. And then let your whole left arm from fingers to shoulder light up. Moving over to your right side, right shoulder, right upper arm, right lower arm, right hand, right fingers. Letting your whole right arm light up. Moving to your neck, your jaw, the back of your head, the top of your head, your face, your nose, your eyes, your lips, your ears, your hair. Coming back down to your breath. We're going to take 3 breaths together. We're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 8. because your nervous system is regulated by your breath out. The slower you breathe out, the slower your nervous system is, which means that you're able to calm yourself. So let's take 4 deep breaths together, breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, holding. Breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause for just a second. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pausing at the top. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pausing at the bottom, letting this be your slowest breath. Breathing in as deep as you can. 3, 4. Holding and letting this be such a slow exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Going back to your normal breath. Call upon your higher self tonight, your guides and your angels, those with you to protect you and guide you along this journey, to help you be open tonight, to help the transmission to come through, to help you receive the message that you desire to receive, to help you have faith and courage in releasing things. We ask that your higher self be with us for tonight. We'll be working with him or her, asking for guidance, wisdom, and insight. So in this moment, go ahead and invite your higher self into tonight's container with us, and just feel this part of you enter into your space. It might be in your heart, it might be outside of you, it might be at your third eye, it might be far above, or it might be somewhere in the room. But let this version of your higher self come in and be with you tonight. Taking a couple deep breaths before we come back to this present moment. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. One of my favorite things to do before I enter into any type of learning space is I love to connect to my breath. I love to ask my higher self to come in, and my guides who help and support me come in and be with me for the experience. So you guys can take that practice and apply it to your everyday learning experiences. It takes a couple minutes to connect to your body and your breath and the present moment. So tonight, you guys, we're going to journey through such a beautiful voyage. So my loves, we're all here because we are going through some type of change. I thank you for all of you who filled out the questionnaire and the welcome email. If you did not, it's okay. I got to see that there were so many things people wanted to release, whether it be through a relationship, their job, their weight, their fears. There's so many things that all of you were wanting to release. Every single one of you had something different, but there was similarities in all of your stories. And that similar thing was the fear of change, the fear of what if I do this thing? What if I change and it doesn't work out the way that I want it to? What if I speak my truth and everything falls apart? Or what if I don't trust myself? Or whatever it is, there was that theme. And it always is that theme when I talk to my clients. That is the theme. And that is the theme for me. So I want to start off tonight by sharing a story with you guys and share with you how change has been a theme in my life. And maybe you can draw some parallels through these stories so that it can help you understand that you're not alone no matter what it is that you go through. You know, and like I started off the call, when we start to feel turbulence in our lives, when we start to feel uninspired, depressed, angry, agitated, we start to argue with those around us. We start to feel even repressed. We start to feel like we're suppressing our dreams or we're compromising for others, right? Those are all telltale signs that something needs to change and that we're avoiding change. Because when we're living in full alignment, when we're living our true purpose, we do not feel those things. Okay? Now, those things are part of our path. Okay? Turbulence is part of our path, but it isn't the path. It is not supposed to be our experience, right? Because where our pain is, that is our compass. Okay? Where we're experiencing discomfort, that is where we need to look. That is where our medicine is, right? And most of us don't want to look there. Most of us don't look at it. We either numb ourselves through television, social media, relationships, drugs, alcohol, sex, dating. We will numb ourselves from the reality of what it is that we need to look at, right? Maybe it's the way we handle money. Maybe it's the relationship we're in. Maybe it's the job we're at. Maybe it's the business that we want to start that we haven't. You know, maybe it's the move we need to make out of state, or maybe it's the move we need to make out of where we're living. I don't know. But a lot of the times, the thing we need to look at the most, we don't. And then we start to feel and experience turbulence in our life. So that is the telltale sign that spirit is saying, hey, it's knocking on our door. We need to change something. And it's usually where we don't want to look that we need to look. That's where our work is. It's usually the thing that scares us the most. That is the thing that we have to have the conversation around. Right? This has shown up for me over and over and over in my life. So I want to share with you guys how this pattern has played out in my own life and how developing a relationship with this aspect of my life, with spirit creating some turbulence and resistance, and me creating a relationship with change has allowed me to evolve, because we are growth-seeking beings by nature. And when we don't change ourselves, we are forced to change. Okay? When we don't change ourselves, when we don't listen to the whispers of life, it'll scream and then it'll hit you with the fucking Mack truck. Okay? And I can't even tell you how many times I have been hit with a Mack truck, like fucking wiped out. Where I'm like, nah, I don't have to, I don't gotta look at that. I don't gotta look at that. I'm good. I'm good. Oh, I'm good there too. So you guys are about to hear this story, these stories of when I've gotten hit back with the Mack truck. And then when I started to listen to the telltale signs, to spirit, you know, I become real hyper aware of when spirit's saying, hey, it's time to change. Because if I don't listen to the whispers and I don't do the change on my own, the result of my life is far worse than if I were to have listened to the whispers and braved the change. Can you guys relate? Can you guys relate? Have you guys kind of feel this? Like, have you had an experience where you were forced to make a decision versus making it for yourself? And you've looked back in hindsight and been like, man, I should have done that a long time ago. Right? I should have done that a long time ago. Right? I'm going to put my incense out. Hold on 2 seconds, guys. Like rocking and rolling. I'm going to like cough and not be able to breathe because of it. Okay. So here's my story. I got a lot of stories. I'll start with the biggest event in my life. The biggest event in my life happened almost 11 years ago when my boyfriend died. He was killed by a random act of violence. And my life before then was very chaotic. Okay. Now, for all of you who've had extremely traumatizing experiences like this, where it is like life-changing and life-altering, I invite you to read a book, actually not read it, listen to it on Audible. It's called Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. She talks about how we have contracts with people, places, and things and experiences, right? To help us evolve, to help us remember pieces of ourselves, because that's what we're here to do. We are here to live a really beautiful, luscious life, you guys. And there are purification things that happen to us that help us align to that help us live our highest truth, right? So when Devin passed away, my life before then, I was numb to spirit. I had pushed spirit so far out of my life, right? And it was that moment, even though it took me to my darkest places in my life, right? I wasn't going to change. I was still running around and living my life disconnected, not having a purpose. And it was that moment that allowed me to remember who I was. Yes, I had to go through grieving. Yes, I went through a really dark time of not wanting to be here, but it is the reason why I'm teaching tonight. If Devin would not have gone, I would not be here. And so the book Sacred Contracts was the thing that taught me about these sacred contracts with people, places, and things and experiences. So I have done such deep healing around this, where I know Devin and I had this contract this lifetime where he came to set me free. He came to remind me of who I really was. And it was an act of love, this whole experience, right? And it sent me on this journey of change, okay? So that is when I started being gifted this internal compass with spirit, right? And this internal compass with spirit is called faith. Before that, I had no faith. So step one in really cultivating a beautiful relationship with change in your life is faith. Being able to trust that which you can't see, you know. And when Devin passed, I had no other choice but to live. I could either die or I was going to live. And I chose to live. And I started to live life boldly. I started to make these decisions that I'd never made. And I remember being at my apartment after he passed away, like 5 months after he passed away, couldn't afford anything. I was living off of $30 a month for food for me and Louie, my dog, and eating like candy, eating bars at my law firm office that I worked at. Like, that's how I lived. I didn't have money to pay car insurance. I didn't have money for gas. All I had money for was a ticket for a train to get to and from work. And if the work, and I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a phone for a couple months. My friend had to get me a phone. It was a really dark time. I could barely pay my rent. When he passed, we shared bills, and he made more money than me. And I was stuck with all of our bills. And so I was in this place of, I was stuck. And I remember having to leave. I remember having this moment where I was like, I need to go. And I thought, you are going to put yourself in the worst financial situation that you ever have by leaving an apartment contract. And I said, you know what? I got to do it. And they did. They tried to come after me for $12,000, right? $12,000 of rent that I didn't pay, in the sense of like, well, this was what your contract was. But I trusted it and I left. And I got rid of my car and I went somewhere really close to work so I could walk to work. And I had to literally release everything. You guys, I had to release everything. I sold every piece of furniture I had. I got rid of like almost all of my clothes. I had what I could fit in my trunk. And a friend let me have a mattress. And I moved into a room at a place down the street from my work, so I could walk to work, walk to my boot camps that I loved doing. And I started over. And that moment was the best decision of my life. That moment set me free. And what was crazy is I was staying crippled. I was so crippled by staying at that apartment. I mean, I can go back to it and it makes me cry to think of how stuck I felt. How stuck I felt. I had to turn my car in early, my lease early, because I couldn't pay it. And I remember thinking, I was so scared in that moment. I was so scared. But Spirit kept painting the way. It was like every time I would look for it, was just like the things of moving in that direction of getting out of my lease and getting out of my car. It just felt like they were being handed to me on a silver platter. So even though I was scared, I had that faith and I did it. And it set me free. It set me free. That was my first experience of burning it all to the ground and starting over. My second experience is when I was working at a law firm. You guys, I was making incredible money. I loved what I was doing. I was thinking of going in the law field, right? I was like, oh, I want to be a lawyer. That'd be so awesome. And I'm at this job. I'm getting paid such amazing money. They take you on vacations. I went to El Salvador, and I worked down the street from my house. I had shifts downstairs at a restaurant. My life was perfect, right? I was comfortable. And then I found this passion. I found this passion of teaching and coaching. I was leading boot camps. I started a business called Believe Wellness, and I started teaching people how to manage their mindset and heal over things, and I was so excited about this passion project of coaching. And then I got into network marketing, and I was so excited to be building my business. And I had all of these dreams, yet 40 hours of my life was spent at this law firm. And I started to hate being there. I started to dread being a job that I once loved. I started to, every moment I got, I was working on things. And I don't know if any of you guys have had this, and you're working for someone else and you're like sitting there acting like you're working and you're not really working, right? Like there was moments where I was so passionate about working on my business that I literally could not focus on work. And the only thing I kept thinking was, fuck, if I could just have 40 hours a week to work on my business, I'd be the most successful person in the world. And I was so excited, but I was also so scared to leave my comfort, to leave that stability. Why? Because I had been broke as shit before. It wasn't even that long before. It was probably a year and a half where I didn't even have a car. I still didn't have a car in this moment. I got my sister a job at the law firm and we carpooled. And I thought, geez, if you leave here, you leave the only thing that was your safety net when you were down and out. Do you really want to live out of your car again? Because there was a moment where I lived out of my car. I was homeless in between this time when Devin died and getting a place and have a place to live. So I really had this fear starting over. And I ended up getting an opportunity to work for someone for 1/8 of what I was getting paid. Part-time, but he promised to help me build my businesses on the side. He was a multi-millionaire, owned multiple businesses. And he was like, come work for me. I'll pay you basically peanuts, but I'll help you start your business. And I went and told my law firm. I sat on it for a little while. I had people tell me not to do it. And that was the first day of my life. I remember that was the beginning of my life when I put in my 2 weeks at that law firm. I put in my month. They wanted me to train people. They offered me an extra $40,000 a year to stay. They begged me to stay. And I left. And was it a good decision? Nope. But yes. Did my businesses take off? Nope. I fell flat on my face. I was broke as shit. I remember after that, it was so funny, you guys. I went and I took this job getting paid $1,000 a month, right? I left and I was like, oh, I'm going to go do this. $1,000 a month under the table. And I ended up moving into my brother and sister's garage, right? I ended up having to couch surf after this because I couldn't even afford rent. I couldn't afford anything. I ended up having to borrow money from my dad to get a car because I wasn't going to work with my sister anymore. I tried to build my business. My network marketing business failed. Working for this guy was a complete disaster. I ended up staying in one of his houses, and I ended up learning so much though. I learned so much through this experience. That's what I gained. I didn't necessarily gain financial stability in the next year, and I struggled and my life got worse before it got better. But again, I scratched everything and burned everything to the ground and went all in. And it was the best decision of my life. I wouldn't be here talking to you if I wouldn't have made that decision. I'd still be working at a law firm probably. I'd still be working for someone. And I've had a 6-figure business for 4 years now, you guys, because I decided to leave somewhere, because I decided to have faith in massive, messy action. I decided that it was okay to get uncomfortable. Okay, this is the fire element. And back then I didn't even know what I was working with, but I was working with the fire element, right? And I share this with you guys because not always do these ideas of ours pan out the way that they're supposed to. But I'll tell you one thing, every single one of these choices panned out exactly how it was supposed to, right? Because I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for those decisions and the things that I learned along the way, the initiations I was gifted with within the mess. I mean, I learned so much working for that gentleman. I learned so much on what not to do, what to do. I learned a lot about my capacity. And from there, I actually learned how to create my first business. I created a juice business. It was a juice delivery business. And I built this thing up and it was sustained me. I was making like $2,000 a month, which was a lot for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making $2,000 a month off a business, right? Because I'd learned so much working for this guy. He was a brilliant businessman. And I learned a lot from network marketing. So I put those skills to work. And next thing I know, I'm doing a little bit of, side jobs here and there. And I was a hustler. I went in, I hustled. And I built this business up. And I remember thinking I built my juice business up because I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a coach. And I started taking on coaching clients. And I realized I couldn't do both. I couldn't do my juice business and I couldn't coach at the same time. It was like I had to focus on one or the other. And again, turbulence hit me. And I started to realize that the juice business was once how it made me happy wasn't making me happy anymore. And I started to resent it and I started to be frustrated with it. And there was spirit communicating to me. And I was living out in California at the time. It was so expensive to live there. And I wanted to start my nutrition business. I wanted to be a nutritionist. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to have an office people could come into. And financially, I knew I couldn't do it in California. And spirit came to me one night. And back then, my relationship with spirit was very faint. But I remember that was when I actually started to exercise my relationship with spirit. And spirit whispered to me, go back to Utah. And I remember crying the next day, thinking, and if I think about it, I remember how heartbroken I was. I felt like a failure. I thought, if I go back home, I failed. I failed. But I thought, if I stay, I'm going to crumble. And Spirit kept whispering, go back home. Trust me, go back home. You can afford what you want there. And the initiation of fire came to me again. And I moved back home. I started over. I dissolved my juice business completely. And I took off to Utah to start my coaching business. And I don't know if some of you have followed me long enough to know that I ran boot camps out in California. They were huge. I grew it with a couple of my business partners from 15 people a weekend to 200 people a weekend. So I had this grand vision to run boot camps out in Utah, the way I ran them out in California, because everybody kept saying, bring them here, bring them here, bring them to Utah. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to dissolve my business. I'm going to go there. And I had this great plan of getting clients and doing these boot camps. And I got there and I posted and I announced I'm doing them. And I showed up to Murray Park in Utah for my first boot camp. A week after being there, and I spent my last $80 that I had buying a Bluetooth wireless boombox, like a sound system, so we'd have music. And I show up so excited to see people there with a donation box, hoping to have sales conversations of people who want to sign up with me to work with me for nutrition. And nobody showed. So here I was, with nothing, you guys. I was living in my grandma's basement. I started completely over. And I remember telling these stories. Like, I'm going back to some of my pivotal moments in my life where I made some of my biggest changes, my biggest choices. And I remember when nobody showed to that boot camp, I laid on my yoga mat and Louie was there and I just started crying. And I called my mom. And Louie was licking my tears. She goes, you got this. I believe in you. And then she also said, maybe you should go get a job. And it was those words that ignited that fire inside of me. And I thought, not today, Satan. No, I cannot go back. I've done all of this work. I've been free from working from someone for 2 years. I can't go back. And I went and I built my business, you guys. I put everything into it. I did. I got a couple side jobs here and there. You know, I went and worked at a restaurant. I did a couple pop-ups at Costco and some fitness shoots. I did some hustling on the side to pay my bills, but I made it happen. And I built up my nutrition business. And I ended up getting an office in Murray, Utah. And that day was the coolest day of my life. I still remember getting that office. It brings tears to my eyes to think how excited I was. And I was like, I did it. And for 3 years, I ran that business. And then there was a day, I remember it, when I wanted something different. And I thought, what the fuck? I don't want to admit that I want something different. I just spent 5 years building this life, you know, and by then I was making $5-6 grand a month, but I was capped out working 40-50 hours a week. I was so exhausted. I was so tired. And I didn't know how to scale. And I wanted to start teaching about mindset. I wanted to be a coach. I didn't want to talk about macros anymore. I didn't want to help people lose weight anymore. I remember sitting there in that office one day, not wanting to admit that I didn't want to be doing what I wanted to be doing anymore. And again, initiation by fire came to me. Now, this change from being a nutritionist to running the business that I have now was absolutely the most pivotal moment of my career and my life, because I took something that I built up, right? And I was willing to let it go to build something of the unknown. And I did. I remember when I said, I'm not taking on any more nutrition clients, I got so sick. You guys went through this emotional detox and this purge. I got a sore throat, and these are symptoms. Hope y'all know that when you release things, sometimes you get sick. It doesn't happen. I haven't gotten sick in 2 years because I understand this process. I dance with it better. But when we hold on to things and hold on to things and hold on to things and hold on to things, and we don't listen to spirit, it kicks us in the ass. Now, I hadn't listened to spirit. I'd been hearing this call for about 9 months. By the time that I was forced to really leave, I had so much body pain. My body hurt. Everything in my body hurt. My neck hurt. My back hurt. I wasn't sleeping good. You could see it in my face that I was exhausted, right? It was screaming at me. And I chose to go. And I shut it down and I started to create what I'm creating now. I hired a mentor and I created this amazing business. And from that moment, it was the next year that I scaled my business from 40K a year, 50K a year to 100K. It was so incredible, but it was so scary. It was so scary for me. Every single one of these moments, you guys, I was scared shitless. And yeah, when I quit my nutrition business, guess what? I fell flat on my face right after. I made nothing for 5 months. I made nothing. I was so broke. It was so funny. So again, these moments of change, just because we have all of this, oh my God, I'm going to fucking do this. It doesn't mean that right away we're going to get the results that we want. And that's okay. And that's the relationship with change that I've developed, because spirit has never left me astray for too long, right? Spirit has never left me astray for too long. I've never been in the dark for too long. There's always been a transition period where it is like, it's kind of like when you're going to the top of the roller coaster and then you go down the first, that's what it feels, and it's just like you go through this crazy roller coaster ride the moment you make this change. And then you all of a sudden you're like, and you come to a halt like a month or two later and you're like, holy shit. Oh, that was intense. Literally, just verbatim, you guys. It's like, it just happened. So I share this with you guys because I want you to know that your spidey sense that things will be a little turbulent when you make change is accurate. And it should be expected. Expect a little fucking chaos. Like, what is change without chaos? Does it really change? Like, if change was easy, we'd all fucking do it. If change came with this, golden get out of jail free card, you don't have to experience any turbulence, would we even grow? Right? Like, think about it. How is a sword sharpened? Resistance. How is a diamond made? Pressure. How is a tree strengthened? Right? A tree gets strong by the wind blowing on it. Right? Like, I know this from my house plants. I like to run fans with my house plants, put them outside so they can get stronger. Resistance and turbulence is our friend. It is here to shape us and mold us and teach us. That is our biggest teacher. That is our biggest teacher. Okay? Not anything else. Yes, it's great to feel at peace. I'm gonna shut this door. Yes, it's great to experience peace and these great moments, but we don't learn shit from those moments. Like, if I were to think the greatest lessons in my life, the greatest evolutionary moments in my life was not in the middle of a meditation. It just wasn't. It was in the middle of dismantling everything that needed to go and learning these new capacities of myself. So when we are graced with change, you guys, that is literally spirit bringing us the coolest gift ever. And it's like, hey, look, I've got the best package for you. Look, here's some change for you. And you know what we do? We take the gift and we look at it like it's a fucking bomb. And we go put it in a corner. Some of us even call hazmat to get rid of it. Ooh, I don't want to look at that place. Take it out of here. And Spirit was like, but you asked for change. You asked for more. You asked for happiness. You asked for prosperity. Here it is. And you're like, oh, no, I didn't want it like that. This has also been the same with my relationships, you guys. Same with my relationships. I've had relationships where I've been ejected out of them, and I've had relationships where I've walked away. Let me tell you what, they both taught me something. They both broke my fucking heart, and they both created healing. But I'll tell you this, the relationships I stayed in too long, that is where I had to do more healing. And I've learned to listen to the whispers, because more than anything, our relationships are the things that we ignore the most, are the things that we endure the most, are the things that we make excuses for the most. Whether that be the relationship we have with coworkers, our parents, or our spouses, or our children. Those are the things that we self-sacrifice ourselves the most, and we lose ourselves the most in, which is okay, because relationships are access points for us to become our highest self, our higher selves. That is what relationships are for. They're mirrors. They're our greatest activators. They're our greatest initiators. So I just want to remind you that don't judge yourself if you've been in relationships that you feel, have left scars on you. Don't stay in that victim mindset. They were a gift for you. And when you look at the whispers, how many whispers did you get to leave that relationship before a Mack truck hit you and you had to leave? Whether it means you were cheated on or you cheated, lied to, you lied, got super abusive and crazy, whatever it was. There was probably a lot of whispers before it got there. A lot of screams before it got there. Before the Mack truck came and said, you're done, right? So my promise to myself and my relationship with Spirit is that I listen to the whispers, okay? And so where Torched came around is I started getting whispers recently that my business needed to change. Mikhail, your business needs to change. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I have an amazing business. Makes me 6 figures. I have all of this spaciousness. I can travel the world. Besides, I'm nomadic. I don't want to change right now. I've got things planned. And Spirit said, excuse me. And it whispered again, but it was a little bit louder this time. I said, okay. And I started to listen. And I started to dive into some questions, and I'm going to ask you guys some questions tonight. I'm going to dive into these questions so that you can contemplate this and know yourself. What is it? What is it? And I realized what it was. I realized there was a truth I wasn't admitting to myself. And it was that I was comfortable in my business. I wasn't ecstatic about it anymore. But I also didn't know what I wanted. So I thought, well, if I don't know what I want in my business, why am I going to give up what I have if I have no idea where the fuck I'm going? Why am I going to give something up? What? And sometimes we have to make room. We have to make room for it to come in. And I like to call this the gap. It was actually really beautiful today on my mentorship call. I expressed that I'm in this gap. I'm in this moment of kind of seeing where I'm going. I don't really know. And seeing what I'm leaving behind and having to have faith that it'll come to me. And so there's an archetype I love to work with, which is the high priestess, right? And the high priestess, she comes in and she cradles you and she hugs you when you're in the void, this gap. And what it is the transition period, right? Because here's the thing, you guys, I had this amazing business model and had all of these clients, but it requires a lot of energy of me to hold space for it. And so I'm closing out all of these containers. And how my business works is I always cycle people a couple months before. I never have a gap in revenue. And I have this huge gap in revenue. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't bring on more clients. I don't have more projects going on. And that's when I was so ready to, and I was trying to create from this place of knowing just recently. And then that's when I was like, fuck it, I'm burning it all to the ground. I got to just release it all. I got to start with a clean slate. And I allowed fire to come and initiate me. I stepped into the ring of fire and I said, burn it all to the ground. Let's let it all go. Let it all go. And I ran myself through this really beautiful meditation process. I said, let's just pretend nothing fucking exists, right? In your life. And you're 3 years from now and you've created your life. What do you want in it? And I started with my body. How do you feel, Mikkel, in 3 years from now, living your fucking dream life? And I felt alive and vibrant and attuned and my calm nervous system and all of these things, right? And I said, well, how do you do that? I was like, breathwork. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to go through a breathwork class. This is going to be fun. And it said yoga. And I do a lot of yoga anyways. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to do more yoga. I'm going to learn yoga. So excited. I was like, oh, look at all of these new opportunities coming in. And it started to show me all of these little things that I might want to create, a coffee shop, a bookstore. And I had this blank canvas to work with. And then it started to show me the life I wanted and the house I wanted, the ease I wanted. And it all started to unravel for me so beautifully, this vision. I was like, wow. And then my business started to unfold. And I have these beautiful ideas coming to the table for me. And I've never done them before. And they feel so scary. But that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have allowed myself to just scratch it all and say, you know what? Fuck it. Mikkel, you've started over before and it worked out great for you. May have been a little chaotic at the beginning, but it's always worked out for you. And it's always worked out for everybody. Every great leader, every great mentor I ever talked to knows this. They speak about this, right? They speak about the power of trusting yourself, the power in trusting the unknown. If you guys work with Joe Dispenza, he talks about this all the time. If you want to create the most epic life you ever you have to create it from the unknown. And so that's when I realized I was like, I'm torching this all to the ground. And I got to do this amazing process that I've done so many times, but I did it from the most conscious space this time. And I was like, okay, you're going to burn it all to the ground. And you also have to be okay with being uncomfortable. You have to be okay with knowing that things might get worse before they get better. You have to be okay with not knowing what to expect. You have to be okay with people not understanding what you're doing. You have to be okay with being misunderstood. You have to be okay with being a little uncomfortable, okay? And that's what I want you to know through this process when you start to work with fire, right? And this is something else, that was coming to me today when I was thinking about working with the element of fire and the beauty of it, right? Is fire does not have to burn you. You do not have to be burned by fire. You can use fire to help you cleanse and purify your life. And what I mean by that is you don't have to go with the wrath of things and destroy relationships and be angry as you make these changes in your life. You don't have to if you want to go through an inner process of that and journaling of it or work through it with a therapist or a coach, and you go through a really fiery, angry, like, fuck this moment, you can do that. But when it comes to making the decision telling your boss you want to go. You don't have to go and be like, F you, da, 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 and burn bridges. You don't have to go to your spouse or your partner and say, and get mad and say, you are da, 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 da. This isn't da, 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 da. You don't have to bring fire and burn things like that. You don't have to be mad at your business. You don't have to be mad at your kids. You don't have to go at it with ego and blame and wrath. That is not what I mean by working with fire. What I mean is you work with it through love and through your heart. And you have deep reverence for these people, places, and things that have brought opportunities into your life. And you say, thank you. And you do a sacred ceremony of release. You say, thank you. Thank you, job. Thank you, office, for treating me poorly. Thank you, boss, for never seeing my brilliance. Thank you, partner, for not understanding what type of love I need. Thank you for not hearing me. Right? And my process with my business, thank you so much for providing such a lovely life. Thank you so much for communicating with me that we've ran a really beautiful journey together and that I'm ready to evolve. Thank you. Thank you for loving me so much that you're willing to communicate to me that it's time for change. That's what I mean by working with fire and being willing to almost write it all down and have a sacred ceremony. And I want to do that tonight with you guys and have a sacred ceremony for these things that you want to release, because they don't have to be done from this place of anger. And I see this a lot with weight loss. There was actually several of you who wanted to release weight that you're holding. And let me tell you this, if you're angry at the weight that you're holding, you're not going to release it. If you're angry at the weight that you're holding on to, you are not going to release it. Because the weight that you're holding on to is not the problem. I always say there's an antagonist and there's a culprit. An antagonist, I learned this in massage therapy. I didn't take massage therapy. I get a lot of massages. When you have a pain here, it's usually because of something down here, right? Antagonist, culprit. Your weight is the antagonist. It's like, hey, something's wrong. I'm not happy with how you're doing life. And a weight is actually an indicator that you're holding on to things physically in your life, whether that be people, places, things, relationships, or stories. And it is a representation of you not feeling safe in your body. So the thing you need to release is most likely outside of you: choices, habits, beliefs, and stories. And then the weight falls off naturally. I was a nutritionist for many years. And I watch people come in and they can't lose weight and they can't lose weight and they can't lose weight. And then they leave their job and then they shed 40 pounds. Weird. Or they leave a relationship. Why do you think breakup bodies are so hot? Because people are releasing the weight of that relationship. Okay? I just want you to think about that for those of you who came to release your weight tonight. Because we're going to be doing a process, because most of the time the weight is not real. It's the culprit. I mean, it's the protagonist, but we got to find the culprit. What's the culprit? Is it your beliefs? Is it your habits? Is it your trauma that you haven't healed? Or are you releasing the story that you're unfixable, that you're unlovable? Because maybe that's what it is. Because a lot of the times when I stop loving myself, I swell up like a fucking balloon. And I usually have to release the story that I'm not lovable for just being me. And then my body can release the weight, right? My little charger popped out. So I gotta plug the charger back into the computer. How's this resonating with you guys? How's this resonating with you guys? Landing well? Share with me, I'd love to hear. Fire. Yes, thank you. Loving it. Great. Woo! Okay, you guys, I'm so excited. Oh, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. I'm going to go to my, okay. So many things. So many things. Okay, so there's like 3 more things I want to touch on, and then we're going to go into some contemplation questions, and we're going to do a little meditation and burn ceremony. So, so fun. So fun. I'm so glad Spirit just is allowing me to channel for you guys tonight. So here's something I really want to drill home to you guys. And that thing is that chaos is part of healing. Okay? Chaos is part of healing and evolving. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the gene keys, but there's a gene key called gene key number 3. And it talks about chaos. And I want to relate this a little bit to what's going on in the world today. Okay. So, because there was actually a lot of that mentioned in the questionnaires that were submitted, that there's several of you that are really fearful about what's going on in the world today. We've been experiencing this now for a hot minute, right? Year and a half now, we've been going through, it feels like Groundhog's Day with scarcity and chaos and fear in the world. And it actually is it's a correlating experience to the chaos that you're experiencing now in your life. And this is how I interpret it, and it's helped me move through these difficult times. Okay, so we are going through an evolutionary change in humanity. And this will probably be an ongoing thing for the next several years. It could be the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Who knows? So we need to develop a really sacred relationship with change and chaos. If we don't, we're going to have a really miserable experience with life. So if you guys are here tonight and you're wanting to change something in your life, right? And you're scared of the change and all of the things that are happening, that is a reflection. Like, Spirit brought you this as an access point to start to develop a relationship with change and chaos. Okay. It's a gift for you. Here's the gift. Spirit's bringing you the gift. You asked, like, hey, I want to feel okay. I want to feel safe in everything that we're going through. I want to feel that humanity is going to be okay. And Spirit goes, okay, here, you can practice it in your own life. And it's giving you a gift. And you're like, oh, I don't want to add more chaos to my life. There's enough chaos going on outside of my life. I don't want to add more chaos to my life. Spirit's, but this is going to help you with the chaos outside of your life. Okay, so they're related. Okay, they're kind of one and the same. So how we humans wake up, right, is through whispers, screaming, or Mack trucks. Humanity had whispers, it had screaming, and now we're experiencing a Mack fucking truck. We are literally witnessing the awakening of humanity as we speak. I mean, this is the greatest time to be alive. We are literally watching humanity wake up. And if we see it through the eyes of Spirit, then we realize that it's happening for us and not to us. And we have to trust the chaos, you guys. We have to trust the pain that humanity kind of has to go through the spiritual evolution. Okay, this is where sovereignty, I didn't understand what sovereignty meant. This is the exact essence and embodiment of sovereignty, is being able to trust the chaos. An example A is watching someone who's 13 years old go through their first breakup and heartbreak. If you watch this 13-year-old girl go through a heartbreak, or even 10, and she's like, crying, oh my God, I'm never gonna love again. That's not true. You can look at her with sovereignty and love and wisdom and say, hey, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And you know it in your heart that it's going to be okay, because you know that this is just teaching her things. you know, and she's just learning. That is spirit looking down at us as humanity. And that can be us looking at humanity. We can see this as an act of love. We can see that we were so asleep as humanity that we had to have this much chaos to wake us up and to bring us together. You know, and so Gene Key number 3 talks about how chaos precedes change. And we all want to change in humanity. So how the hell did we think we were going to get change in humanity without chaos? And it is hard. It is hard to see. And it is scary. But we get to trust it. And when we stay in the frequency of trust, things can evolve quicker. And we as a collective affect each other. So the more of us that are in fear, the more it adds to the fear. The more of us that are in trust, the more we can all start to recalibrate to that trust frequency. Okay, so I have faith in humanity. So I just wanted to speak to that so you guys can have faith in humanity. And that practice goes right into the practice of your own change and your own chaos in your life. Okay, when we experience this moment where we're going to go through change, we have to be okay with a little bit of chaos, because it is part of our evolutionary growth. We have to befriend it. So I just want to speak to that and really drill that home. I know I've said it a couple different times tonight, but please just know that you get to become friends with chaos, and you get to look at it like spirit's bringing you a gift where you're like, oh shit, this gift again, oh God, it's like a Jack in the Box, right? You're waiting for the pop, da, 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 da. You know, and then you're like, oh, here it is, here's my change. I asked for this. Came in a different package than I expected. So for all of you looking for change, that's what I want you guys to remember. This is what I call trust codes, okay? So I hope that you all can start to really embark on this journey of developing your trust codes and developing your relationship to change, because your relationship with change directly is correlated to how amazing of a life experience you're going to have, okay? So all of the things that you desire, come down to how well you can cultivate a beautiful relationship with change. And the last thing I'm going to end with, this was like a little quote. I'm going to turn this little fan off because my finger getting cold. This was a quote. It's like a tiny little thing that I repeat to myself, like a mantra person, what I'd say, a mantra is, you can't mess this up. Okay? You can't mess this life up. If you really believed that, what could you create in your life, right? If you really believed you can't mess it up, wouldn't you feel more invincible? Like, I can't really mess this up. Like, life is just fucking messy. Like, I know for me, and this is a contemplation I want to give you guys. We're all afraid of messing it up. And what is another word for mess up? Failure. People are afraid of failing, whether it means failing in a business, failing in a relationship, failing in life, failing in not finding your purpose, failing in mothership, right? If you're a father, failing in parenting, we're scared of failure. So I want to ask you this. Here's my first contemplation for you guys. My first contemplation question.